Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Senior to Scratch. As the kids say, it's been a minute since we've touched base. The season's been over for probably around a month and a half now. It is frigid outside. We have a ton of snow. It's probably hovering between minus 15 and minus 20 Celsius. So, what better time to do a podcast? I apologize for the delay, but life's been getting in the way. But to be honest, it's really been about doing more of a detailed retirement planning approach. That way, the quicker this transition can happen, the more I can enjoy this game that we all love. As I sit down recording this, I've watched that show Stick with Owen Wilson, where he takes his protege in an RV from town to town across the country to play in tournaments. This seems like a great way to spend a part of the Canadian summers for sure. When I hit 55 in less than a couple years, and I can play in senior tournaments at that point. I've also been preoccupied with this YouTube golf phenomenon that's been happening in the last couple years. I watched that inaugural invitational event, and it was fascinating. There was allegations of cheating. There was $1 million on the line. Pretty cool. Okay, back to golf. If you remember, I ended the previous season at a 4.2 index. Well, this season I ended at a 4.1. Virtually unchanged, but considering I'm another year older, I guess I can't complain too much, but of course I will. However, thanks to Scott Fawcett's Decade program, I am able to do a proper look back on this past season. A cool feature that I just found was how I play relative to a similar handicap player for each facet of my game. So what that means is, for example, on the driving side off the tee, my driving is like a 75 player, so a pretty good player. However, my approach game is more like a 77 player. Still pretty respectable. But this is where it gets a little bit sketchy. The short game plummets to a 79 player, and I putt like an 82 player. So you can tell where I need to improve here. Now, first of all, I think putting speed control is really my bugaboo. From 11 to 20 feet, I 3-putted 5% of the time. From 20 to 40 feet, I've 3-putted 20%. And from 40 plus feet, 40% of the time. So this should be low-hanging fruit here. Now, incredibly, from 15 to 40 feet, I'm long well over 90% of the time, and 80% of the time over 40 feet. This is no doubt one of the causes of these 3-putts. For these long putts, I should be short of the hole about as often as I am long of the hole, so it should be closer to 50%, but I am clearly blasting it past the hole for whatever reason. So I've engaged Ross McLeod putting for a couple of online putting lessons, and assuming that I do practice that over the off-season, this should help the distance control. What he teaches is something that every pro does, but amateurs struggle with. It's creating the momentum with the backswing and coasting through the ball and having a shorter follow-through. So that's what I'm going to be working on. Now, the short game is a little tougher to practice inside, but I've taken some videos of my swing and I've noticed that I have way too much shifting or lateral movement in my pitches and chips. My feeling needs to be planting the feet and rotating the chest through the ball, as well as having that light grip. I bought a $5 chipping net from Temu, so that should at least help me gauge carry and trajectory and try to hone in on that at least for a specific length of shot. Now on the approach side, I need to tighten this up. My average proximity to the pin from just 60 to 80 yards is about the same as it is from 100 to 140 yards, and surprisingly from 180 to 200 yards. So the good news is the longer irons are probably good enough, but there's no excuse for the 60 to 80 yard shots to be so far away. And this should be easy to dial in on the home sim. The 100 to 140 yard shots are all wedge shots, so this needs to be better. This involves honing in my iron play and revisiting lessons, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So my proximity from 140 to 180 is actually better than from 100 to 140 when I do hit the green. So, like I said, I am going to talk about the iron shot plan in a moment. But lastly, let's talk about from the tee. So, off the tee, I'm basically good enough 58% of the fairways and really an equal percentage left and right of the fairway. So, this is pretty good. I don't practice my driver in the sim area, so I will just have to get honed in during the simulator league. Now, back to the iron play. I took a bunch of lessons last year, if you remember, from Giles, who's an exceptional coach. And based on the videos that I took of myself near the end of this golf season, I had largely regressed. That said, I don't believe I assimilated all of the techniques I learned. The funny thing about taking lessons in succession is generally it means forgetting whatever I learned in the previous lessons. So I would always regress on the previous improvement item, for example, the inside takeaway, when learning another technique like dropping the arms. By the time I hit the course, there were too many thoughts going on in my head, which is obviously bad during a golf swing. So I likely regress to the comfortable swing I know, so that I can instead focus on the target instead of the swing just to get through the season. I feel this is likely the reason that I didn't improve much during the season. My focus will be to touch base with all of the lesson videos that I took with Giles, but really I have to focus on one or two key elements so that I don't get bombarded with swing thoughts. So being on plane on the takeaway needs to be something that's ingrained. I can't really think about that during the fast golf swing. My real challenge is going to be dropping the arms first in the downswing before rotating. For whatever reason, I just have trouble doing this. It doesn't matter how hard I try. When I video myself and I look at it, I definitely am rotating the upper body before I drop my arms. So that's something I'm going to need to work on. And so as a result of my swing, I have weaker over-the-top strikes in general. Now, I can be relatively consistent with this, but I feel that I need to make a step change to get to that next level. Getting my arms lower faster will allow me to compress the ball more, have more shaft lean, and hopefully create less dispersion. From the little work that I've done so far, I've noticed that the launch angle, at least on my 8-iron, has dropped from the low 20s to the high teens, which will create a more piercing ball flight and obviously more compression. So I look forward to seeing how that turns out. The other thing is, the great thing about AI is that I can go to ChatGPT or Perplexity, and it can point me to videos specific to my issue. And if they're in alignment with what my coach says, I will do what I can to improve that aspect. So I've already begun some pretty intensive video recording, as feel and reel are really two different things, especially when it comes to my body rotation. So shifting gears on the fitness side, I'm continuing to try to perform golf-specific strength and flexibility exercises by Jamie Greaves 3 days a week. And I'm also trying to incorporate some skin stretch sessions for my knees and hips. I did one session today, and virtually every part of my body that can cramp up did, and my hips are extremely sore from all of the targeted internal rotation. I have talked to two of the older gentlemen in that class that I've seen in every one of the 5 classes that I've attended, and they swear by it. One of them even today said that he was having difficulty walking beforehand, and now he's fine. Finally, I'm participating in the winter and spring sim leagues at the golf club, and this is a great way to stay engaged in the competitive aspect, as well as that all-important social aspect necessary for that more fulfilling life. Well, that's about it for now. I'm targeting having some interesting guests on the program during this long winter here. Have a family trip planned to San Diego where I'm going to get some golf in, and a 4-person buddy golf trip to Mesquite in the new year. So until next time, keep enjoying the process of improving your golf game.